One of the things that is pretty interesting is that if you roll the clock back, Sherman set the dial on the Wayback Machine to about 11,000 years ago, before the last significant ice age. This is an important time for all of us, I know. People were fairly shamanistic if they had any religion at all. They figured, oh, the sun came up. Something must have dragged the sun from its slumber. It rained. Something must be pissed off. There's lightning. Something must be pissed off. Or whichever. Humans gathered in packs, kind of like wolves or lions. And they wandered around, and there were pack leaders, alpha males and alpha females, who do their thing. And there were also lots of run-of-the-mill, average, working Joe types who do their thing. And once in a while, it would be mating season. In fact, it would be mating season once a month for humans, because we're really cool that way. And the females would hook up with the males that were of interest. And babies would get generated. But the thing is, when you don't have months and weeks and days, because time doesn't matter that much to you, you don't have cycles of growth of things because you're hunters and gatherers and you just go around and find stuff. The idea of cause and effect between having sex and generating a baby is actually pretty difficult to come to terms with. So then, something really cool happened. Not just cool, cold. Ice Age. Everyone had to either move out of their cooler neighborhoods or find themselves nice comfortable caves and gather as much as they could and managed to live through the very bad time. But when they came back out of their caves, something new was in evidence, and that was the plants that existed were all perennials. You guys familiar with perennials? It means they survive from year after year after year after year through the changes in the cycle and whether the ground freezes, because everything they need are in their seeds, and providing the soil is good, new plants will grow in the same place. Something new happened. Suddenly, we had this new concept. If I farm, if I go out and I take these seeds and I put them in the same place, or I expand that area, I get more and more food. If I have other people who come out and help me, eventually we've got tremendous number of crops without having to do nearly as much running around as trying to find whatever plant life we can on whatever trees. We don't have to go out and hunt for things. It gets really easy. They also discovered ranching. Because if you take care of your animals and grow them, you end up with plenty. This is very, very, very efficient. And so the hunter paradigm kind of fell to the side in favor of this farmer paradigm. And with the farmer paradigm came something else. The idea of property. You see, when you're tribal nomads, you've got territory maybe, but property doesn't really mean anything. But once you start working a field and you start generating product, it's yours. Well, an interesting thing happens when you start doing that. You start looking at women and you go, you know what? If I take these seeds and I put them into this fertile soil, I get product. If I put seeds into this woman who is fertile soil, I get product. Not only that, I get product that I can use to help me till the field next year. And so this wonderful thing, the idea of being able to generate children that were your own, that would respond to your instructions, very important thing. Suddenly it was very important to treat women as property. Kind of a lousy deal for women, really, except at least it came along with a guarantee of security. And women, as we all know, fundamentally crave security. This is very important and not an unfair comment to make. Men like security too, but we don't crave it in the same way. What men crave, and is the overrider of all the things we tend to do, is approval. When you recognize that human beings crave security and approval, you'll realize the reason why things become limiting for them. If a man realizes he's going to do something that will get him disapproval, he won't do it. Not unless he's absolutely sure he can get away with it. So now, coming back, we have this idea of women as property. And the women as property were kind of hard to keep as property, because either you needed to geld some poor sucker and make him responsible for guarding your harem. And by the way, this was done for thousands and thousands of years. And by the way, in case you're wondering where the idea came from, anyone who's raised chickens or cattle or whatever will discover that if you have too many males, they'll fight it out, sometimes to the death. So you want to turn your chickens, your roosters, into capons. You want to turn your bulls into steer, except for the ones you're going to be using for breeding, because otherwise you've got problems. Okay? So humans started to think, well, maybe the thing to do is treat people the way we always treat our livestock. I'm not going to cut off my own balls, but there's got to be someone out there who I don't care about. The problem there is the urges of women didn't change between when women were just having sex because it made sense to them when there were no words to describe what was going along, to when they had this cultural paradigm that said they belonged to someone. And people don't really like that sort of sense of belonging. They like voluntary sense of belonging. They don't like to feel they're owned. And so women would sneak out. So this didn't work terribly well. This would be a problem, because men really want to believe their children are their own. Have any of you read that 30% of children whose DNA was tested in the past couple of years in the United States to see if their father was actually their father, turned out 30%, their daddy weren't their daddy and the daddy didn't know.
That's probably a biased sample.
Oh, it's not, no, for certain.
It's not testing 100% of the population.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, it's only testing the ones where the husband suspected the child was. The stats probably closer to 11 to 12% in North America, according to most of the institutes that I've been doing research on. But I think that's probably low anyway. I think that stat is based on spurious data, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. So, if your daddy ain't your daddy and your daddy don't know, he might, if he finds out about it, not want to invest a lot of energy in you. But then again, he may say, well, it doesn't matter. If I'd come across this woman and she just had a baby and I loved her and she was cool and really great, I'd treat the baby as my child, in which case it doesn't matter. But it depends on the mindset of the fellow. There are many men for whom it is extraordinarily important that their child be their own child. And because of this, we have certain extremely socially broken things that have come to us over thousands and thousands of years. For example, the value of virginity. Virginity is very, very important. When you're getting married to a woman and you want to know that the child she's about to become pregnant with is going to be yours, and that she didn't show up at your door already pregnant with someone else's child, and that's why she's marrying you. You'll laugh, but in a couple of minutes you'll recognize this is probably a lot more common than you'd think. So, come back. We have this situation. 10,000 years ago, we've got this society in which people are trying to defend their women from interlopers because they want to keep them for themselves. It's not working terribly well. It's time to come up with something better. So as a few thousand years go by, someone says, I know, we have to terrify them into behaving themselves, whether or not we've got someone to police this. And what's the most terrifying thing anyone's ever come up with? God. We're going to give you some divine punishment. We're going to even come up with a bunch of rules. You're going to like them. They're interesting. They say things like, don't steal other people's property. And don't kill them. Okay. Don't want your neighbor's wife. She's his property. And then to women, don't have sex with anyone you're not married to. Wow. The other ones are things like keep these holy and pay attention to this and don't have any other gods. But the important ones are the ones about governing property. This is very important. These rules have propagated for about 6,000 years or so. They've become part of a lot of different cultures. And a lot of people follow these rules. And they're not bad rules. Except they sure do supplicate women in some pretty bad situations. They're not obvious to men. But it's not your fault, guys. None of you are responsible for that, and not just that. Even after today, when some of these things I'm going to tell you are going to resonate in you, because there's some things I'm going to tell you you're going to really like. It won't even free the women, because they're holding themselves down, and not in a fun way. And so I'm going to give you today some things you're going to take with you, and when you talk to women, and when you describe these things to women, you're going to help them liberate themselves. You're going to help them emancipate themselves from a tyranny that they don't even realize they're holding themselves under. And once they do, they're going to feel much, much better about themselves. They're going to like themselves, and things are going to make sense to them. And they're going to really appreciate that you brought it to them. Because it means you understand it. And you're not going to look down at them. And you're not going to disapprove of them. And you're not going to remove from them their security by damaging their reputation, by damaging their name,